Hey guys, it's Mike. I am quitting Raid again. Let's talk about it. So I think in this brief series, I have been pretty critical of Raid, and a lot of it stems from my previous experience of playing for 4 years. I thought it'd be kind of fun to start the game over on the free-to-play 2025 that Hell Hades is putting on the event through the website, and it was at first, but a lot of my frustrations came roaring back very quickly. So today we're going to go ahead and discuss why I'm actually leaving Raid again. I'm not saying I'll never come back, but it might be a minute. We're going to pull all the shards that I have, because why not? And discuss some of the good things about Raid that I do love and hope to see in other games, as well as some of the things that really just drive me nuts, and that's why I'm heading out. So the first thing I'd like to discuss is actually going to be the grind itself. I've been playing the game, I think I'm in for about 18 days, 16 days. I have one 6-star character. I'm working up towards other 6-star characters. I've pulled, I think 2 sacreds, maybe 3 to 5 voids, and then probably 30 ancient shards. And the only legendary I have on my account is the one that gave me after 7 days. The other flip side of that too is the only really good character I have on my account is that legendary character. I do have the starting character Kale, I do have Apothecary. These are rare champions that in game aren't going to do a whole lot for me. Venomage is decent, but it just feels like after 2 weeks of playing this game and really grinding it out, I mean, you're talking 2 hours a day plus. I feel like the account, it just should be further along. And I know that Raid is a 2 to 5 year grind, and it's just tough. To compare that one 6-star character I've made over the course of 18 days, I've been playing King Arthur Legends Rise probably every day for 4 or 5 days. Like, I started it probably 10 days ago, but I didn't pick it up for a day or two, and I was kind of in and out trying to figure the game out. But within that time frame, I've pulled 4 legendary characters, and I have 5 6-star characters. And they have significantly less legendaries in the game. I think there's 20. So I'm not saying Raid needs to move to that level, but especially with the quantity of characters in the game that they have, everything should get a lot more generous. And one of the biggest issues I have really come down to drop rates. At the end of the day, you don't want to get all the characters right away. You don't want to have really generous drop rates, like over the top. Every 10 shards you pull, you get a legendary. That's not going to be healthy for the game. It's not sustainable. But the problem is, when this game started, the drop rates themselves are pretty crazy. You have very fractional chances to get anything. Now they added the mythical, which is even more insane. And these drop rates in and of themselves are not necessarily bad. I think the pity system is a little bit greedy, to be fair, but the drop rates themselves are not necessarily bad. Where they fall down and become a problem is when you need to draw 5 of the same champion to max them out. And that didn't happen until probably 3 years into the game, when they added the +1, +2 to legendaries. Now they're adding it to epics. But the problem there is there's so many legendary characters in this game. So let's say you had a Staltis Dragonbane and you wanted to +4 your Staltis. The odds of pulling 4 more copies of that character are outright insane. Like, with the drop rates as low as they are and how frequently you actually get champions, especially as a free-to-play player. I mean, if you're spending money on shards, you're probably getting a lot more champions. But as a free-to-play player, you don't get that many legendaries. I played for almost 3 weeks. I have gotten 0. I have the one that they gave me as a login, as basically a pity to start, where it's like, hey, and then just because I happened to start at a good time. So after 3 weeks of playing this game, I don't have a single legendary character on my account. Now, obviously, as you get further in Clan Boss, you get better rewards, you're gonna get better drops later on. But now that they have this system in place where you need multiple copies of champions to max them out, those drop rates should get significantly better. Like, if you compare it to a King Arthur, you compare it to a Guild of Guardians, you compare it to other games where you need a lot of champions to max a champion out, their drop rates are significantly better. They have pity systems at 60, not 220. And I think they're a little more generous with the amount of pulls you actually get to have. Because at the end of the day, that's what makes these games fun, is we get to pull. That's the dopamine hit we're looking for. I don't know if you can see it, but I do have this one sacred shard down here, so we will pull that later. But that's really what we're looking to do. So if you want to keep your drop rates this bad, give us a lot more shards. Give us the opportunity to have some fun. Realistically, when you need to have multiple copies of characters, these drop rates are atrocious. The fact that drop rates on an Ancient Shard and a Void Shard are the same is asinine. These are significantly more rare in the game, and I have no other way of getting Void Legendaries. There's no version of a Sacred Shard for Voids. So I can't step up my chances to get a Void Legendary. So I just am sitting here on a 0.5 or a 1% chance on a 2x event, because heaven forbid you pull these shards on not a 2x event. And you're just sitting here like, when am I ever gonna get a Void Legendary? Do you know how hard it is to get 220 Void Shards? On my main account, I had one of the most negative experiences. I've actually had 2 really bad experiences with Void. One was a 10x event for Seafeet early on, where before they added a bunch of Voids. So your 10x chances were actually pretty good, and I pulled a dupe Arbiter. Now I got it on pity. I saved up 220 Void Shards to get to that, and when that Seafeet came out, I ended up with a dupe Arbiter. There was another one, I'm trying to remember who the 10x champion was, or it might have been a 2x event, and I got a Visix. I got a second copy of a Visix. And I'm sitting there like, well, I could plus my Lydia. Like that's the only purpose of a Visix. But it was so defeating. It was so defeating. Like it will take you, I would say 6 to 10 months to get 220 Void Shards if you're playing this game hours a day, every day. Trying to max out every tournament. Every time you see a Void Shard, you're going for it. You're playing Nightmare level Clan Boss or Ultimate Nightmare or whatever it is. Clan Boss getting, Sacred and Void drops daily. It's gonna take you a long time to get 220 Void Shards. And when you pull that Visix and you just want to gouge your eyes out, it is so defeating. It is brutal. I could probably spend 2 hours talking about drop rates, but we're going to move on because I feel like I've beaten that dead horse. The other problem I have with this game is the things that you have to do repeatedly all the time. For example, now obviously on a free-to-play account, like you should have to do this for the first few months. I understand that completely, but on a in-game account, there is no avenue to change this whatsoever. If I come in here to stage 6 or stage 3, however you want to farm, if you're farming silver, if you're farming experience, and you're just making food, I cannot tell you how many hours of my life I have spent in this battle, watching these exact characters, except for my food changing out, going through and killing the same enemies over and over again. Apparently I'm waiting for loading time because I haven't opened up this game in several days. But this is a waste of time for an in-game player. Now the struggle is you constantly need to farm food because there's always tournaments, there's always events, there's fusions, there's fragments where you have champion training, and you have to go in here and you have to do this forever. Now you get better characters, you're able to do it quicker over time, but even still, hours of your life is wasted watching this exact battle. You can say the same thing for Dragon, you can say the same thing for Spider, you can say the same thing for every dungeon. And it's one of those things that over time does not get better. And that's the struggle. Like right now on my in-game account, if I go into the dungeons, I never spent time building a team for either of these dungeons. Because by the time I get done with everything else, I have no time left for the game. I feel like at a certain point, like once you beat Dragon 20, these should be simmable, like auto-simmable. Boom, boom, boom. You're going through it. One thing I really like in King Arthur is they have, once you 3-star it, you get to multiply times 3 and multi-battles, so you can just, as many energy as you have, you can just go. And I think that's a way better system than what we've got going on here. I can't tell you how much time just gets wasted in things that you've done a million times. Minotaur, potion keeps. Again, over here on Iron Twins, I never really got a chance to build a team that really made sense because I'm constantly doing all this other stuff. The other thing that I like a lot in Arthur that Raid should really look into is that you're not penalized for trying to beat the next stage. If I go to dungeon this dragon and I try to fight stage 14, I'm gonna lose 14 paddle. I got the 2x super raids on. This should be 3, 4, 5 times. Not for a free-to-play account, brand new, but in game, I should be able to do 10 times this one dragon run. There's no reason for that not to be a thing. But anyways, if I lose this battle, I'm losing this 14 power. And with that energy, now I'm falling behind because I'm not using energy in an effective way to make my account go forward. So I'm actually penalized to try to build better teams, to try things out. Another thing that would be beneficial is a sandbox mode, where it's like, hey, you know what? I want to see if I can put a team together that can beat this. Let me click up here on sandbox. It doesn't use any energy at all. So if I'm out of energy, it's something I can do in the game to better my team. I can start moving gear around. I can start moving players around, all free of charge, Raid, free of charge, to see if this build or that build or this combination works better on Dragon. And then if I build a team that I'm like, you know what? I'm ready. I like this team. I can hit a button that says build, and then I pay all of the necessary silver to move all the gear to wherever it needs to be to have a team that can fight the dragon, and now I know it's going to win because I got to test it out. These are things that are just quality of life that would make this game significantly better. At the end of the day, I think a lot of my frustration comes from the fact that there's so much about this game I love. Like, there's so much about it that they really hit the nail on the head. Like the faction wars, having to use unique characters to do things that you wouldn't otherwise build. The dungeons that have unique characteristics on the bosses where you have to build players you typically wouldn't build. The clan bosses. I never really got into Hydra. I hated it from day one. It never got better for me. But the Demon Lord I think is fantastic. Unfortunately, Chimera I can't really speak to because my only experience is on the free-to-play account and I have 5 characters. So I just go in and hit auto and I get what I get. So this might be a good game mode, I don't know. But I think that it's just one of those things, there's so much about this game that I do love. The Doom Tower, I think is awesome content with all the different bosses and the seasons and the cycling and the keys, and it's a separate resource that you're not using energy to go through. I think they did some things right. But at this point in my free-to-play account, I'm looking at the mountain that I have to climb to get even to the mid-game, and I'm burned out. And to be fair, I'm burned out because of 4 years of being burned out. So if I were starting this game from scratch, probably would have a little more energy. I'd probably be a little more excited. I think I'd be pretty disappointed in the fact I've been playing for 3 weeks and I have no legendaries on my account except for the freebie I get at the beginning. That's kind of frustrating, like from a player standpoint, especially when I'm looking at this index and there's not a way for me to pull up all the legendaries, but there are 20 legendaries in each of these factions. And I've got one that I got for free with no hope in sight of getting more. And I don't even want to talk about void legendaries. Like if you're a free-to-play player, that you cannot count on ever getting a specific void legendary. But on the void legendary front, like you'll get a Lydia, you'll get an Arbiter, but if you wanted, for example, my main account, I wanted a Warlord since day one. I saw Hell Hades using Warlord in his arena videos, and I was like, he is amazing. I want him on my account. 4 years later, no hope. Not even a glimpse of hope. Where it's like, hey, like if I build this up and I do this thing, like I'm getting closer to him. Nothing. I have no way of getting this character as a free-to-play player. If I want to grind for 10 years, there is no guarantee that I'm getting this character. That's extremely frustrating. The other issue I want to talk about is time in game. This game is so time intensive. Like if you're actually grinding this out as a free-to-play player, you can easily spend 2 hours a day in this game and you may or may not get everything done. When you come into your daily quests, for example, you want to get all this done every day. It is frustrating. Some of these, especially on the advanced quests, some of these are things you can't do, like beat a Faction Wars boss, you know? Depending on what Faction Wars open, I'm a new player. I may not have a player that can actually beat a boss. So now I'm just sacrificing this energy and extra stars because I can't do a task. In King Arthur, I think there's 15 or 16 tasks and you only have to complete 10 of them to get your daily reward. So if you're unable to do one, you're not punished for it. And those are the kind of things as a free-to-play player, you fall behind quickly if you're not able to do these things. So it pushes you into places where you're really spending extra time in the game trying to get stuff done. So the fact that some of these tasks change on a day-to-day basis, like for example, you go into your arena and your tag team arena, sometimes you need to do a team of the same affinity, or a team of the same faction, or a team of completely different affinity, which means every single day I have to go into the menu, find out what's going on today, build a team for that specific thing just to complete that one task. Or I gotta go to the forge and I have to forge resilience gear or perception gear or some random thing. These daily chores should just be playing the game. I shouldn't have to reference these to get these done. Like it should be the same things every day. And it shouldn't take me more than 15 to 20 minutes to do all of them. So if I'm on vacation or I'm doing a thing and I just want to log in, get my daily chores knocked out and just not fall behind, I can go ahead and do that. And I can do it quickly. And those kind of added places where you're just spending time clicking around, be like, what do I have to do today? How many times do you have to click? Don't sell me stuff, Raid. You know, it's all those things where it just adds up, and it's like I really feel like they want you to spend your entire life in this game. To be clear, as a free-to-play player starting out, I enjoy the grind. I like the grind. But when I played for 4 years and I'm grinding Fire Knight to get the next fusion, it doesn't make sense that I need to spend the time actually fighting the Fire Knight. That makes no sense at all. I don't know if it's once you beat the Fire Knight 20, 100 times, you can auto-sim it, as long as you have the energy. I don't know if it's when you beat hard mode, you get to auto-sim all of it. I don't know what it is, but there's no reason I need to watch this battle 10,000 times. And these complaints are not new. Like, people have been talking about quality of life in Raid since I started. People, like, ever since they added every little thing, it was like, well, you're adding more and more stuff for us to do, but you're not taking away time for us to do other things, which is just adding more and more time into the game. And frankly, it already was a lot. It's a delicate balance because as a player, you want to be able to play as much as you want, but you don't want to feel like you have to. And I think that's where Raid really is falling down, is you get into this groove of like, I have to put in 2 hours a day. And it's just too much. When you look at some of the long-term goals of this game, such as the Great Hall, the amount of time that you're playing this game to actually max out your Great Hall is, I don't even know. I haven't maxed mine out, and I'm probably 4 years in. Now I haven't maxed out every single time that you could do Arena, using every token every day, just because it takes so much time. But in 4 years, I haven't maxed it out. That to me is kind of one of those, it's a problem. It's a problem. I don't know how fast you potentially could max this out, but my guess is if you used every token every day, every time, you could probably get this done in about 2 years, which tells me like, hey, you know, we're expecting you to play this game for a minimum of 2 years. Because once you max it out, you still want to do other stuff. Now you have the benefits of maxing it out. That to me, like, it's just such a long commitment. It's such a long time to play a game for a task like this. I don't know what the right time is. 6 months to a year seems reasonable to me, where you could max this out if you were really focused on it. If you look at the faction wars with Lydia, it's the same thing. It's a long-term goal. You're gonna have to build 2 or 3 6-star characters in every one of these factions. First, you're gonna have to pull characters that can actually beat it, which is hard enough. Then you're gonna have to build them to 6 stars. Then you're gonna have to get every single star across the board to get a long-term goal like Lydia. Who is worth it? Great. How fast could you do this? I don't know. I don't know what that answer is. I would imagine it's well over a year. I would imagine you're probably 2 years is probably as fast as anybody will ever get Lydia. I think Arbiter, I think the fastest I've seen was something like 60 days or something like that, where you can go in and complete all of your missions to get your Arbiter. So this seems a little more achievable to me. Like, hey, if I'm really focused on this for the next 60 days, I can get this character. You know, like, I think that's pretty good. I would think as a long-term player, every 90 days, I should be able to get any character I want. Like, every 90 days, I should get like a Void Legendary. Like, I get to go pick a character and say, I want that character on my account. I mean, if let's just say I want to max out a Krisk, and you gave me a Krisk every 90 days because that was what I wanted, it would take me a year and a half to max them out, a year and a quarter, because I need 5 copies of them to get them to +4. So I'd be playing your game for a year and a quarter to max out 1 Void Legendary character. And you have how many in the game, and how many great characters that you want in this game. And then just talking about things in the game that need to be changed forever and never have, like this market. There's nothing in this market, even as a brand new player, there's nothing in this market I care about other than Ancient Shards and Mystery Shards. There's not a piece of gear in here that's gonna better my account. There's not, like, and I'm 18 days into this game. Like, 18 days, there's nothing in here I care about. This has been brought up time and time and time and time again. And it hasn't changed. Nothing has changed. As a player in game, there should be mythical 6-star pieces in here. And it'd be worthless anyway because they'd charge 10 million silver for it, so you wouldn't buy it anyway. But the prices in here should be reasonable, where it's like, hey, I want to get that piece of gear. That actually makes sense. There should be sacred shards in here. There should be void shards in here as an in-game player. I mean, as a brand new player, there should be too. It'd just be a little bit harder to get to the silver cap, where you're like, hey, you know what? I really do want that sacred. I'm gonna buy it for 1 million silver, not 25 million silver, Raid. Like 1 million silver for a sacred shard, because I have a 94% chance of getting absolutely nothing that's gonna help my account. Here it is, you know. Now, as a brand new player, that 94% chance for an epic is like, man, there's a lot of epics I could benefit from. So looking at the last 18 days experience, I think a lot of it came into perspective as I started playing more and more King Arthur, and just how fast the progression feels in that game, how generous the drops are in that game, how many hits of dopamine I get in that game. It just is a completely different vibe. When I look at what they're trying to sell me, the prices seem a lot more reasonable. Like, it just doesn't feel so money first, so greedy, and it's not as time consuming. I can spend time in the game, I can not spend time in the game. It's just, it's a much more pleasant experience, which really started to amplify what is going on here for me. Now, to be fair, I do feel like there's a big part of me that sees the mountain in front of me because I've already climbed it, and now I'm like, there's no way. I have no desire to climb this mountain again. And I think that fatigue is real. If you're coming to the game right now and you're like, I've never played before, there is a lot of fun to be had here. It is a great game. They've done a lot of great things. There's a lot of frustrations to be had as well, but typically the fun outweighs the frustration. So at this time for me, I gotta say I'm out. I'm done. I'm out of the contest. I'm not gonna log into this account. I'm not gonna say I'll never pick up Raid again. Maybe in a while I'll come back to it and just see what's going on, if they've changed some quality of life behaviors, or if at some point I get like a wild hair and I'm like, hey, you know what I really want to go build some of the teams in those dungeons that I was never able to beat and just max everything out. Maybe I'll come back to it. But I definitely won't be coming back to the free-to-play account because that mountain is too big for me. Another quality of life piece that has never been addressed is this right here. When you're going to feed champions, you come in here, you got a whole bunch of clicks to go through. You're sitting there clicking champions, feeding them up. It takes forever. A quick system, I've given it 10 minutes of thought. You highlight all the champions that are food, move them into a folder, click the button, and it auto-consolidates all of them into the best chickens you can get, maxing out at 5 stars. Take 2 seconds. 2 seconds. And I can't imagine that kind of coding is difficult. Like, I just don't see how it is. But I'm gonna go spend the next 10, 20 minutes of my life consolidating food so we can do those shard pulls. So we're not gonna pull the mystery shards because I don't think it's really gonna help the account at all. We're gonna go through the 5 ancients, the 2 voids, the 1 sacred. I did notice they got Rhodos in here, so just for giggles, I've been wanting this character on my main account forever. So I'm gonna go ahead and put Rhodos in there. Let's see here, Geomancer is a great choice. These are like Geomancer, your Allure, are gonna be excellent choice. She's basically a Fire Knight King, like that's all she does, but without her, that is really difficult. But Geomancer is a boss killer. Like, he does an amazing job. So if we got the Geomancer, that'd be pretty cool. So we're gonna go ahead and pull these 5 and hope for the best. It's gonna be funny, they're gonna put my, they're gonna make me question leaving. Oh, you got another Apothecary. They're gonna give me a Rhodos and I'll be like, oh, now I wanna stay. But at least I'd be able to play with them a little bit and see how it goes. But so far we got nothing. We got some more chickens going on here. Let's see if we can get anything that's worth talking about. But that was another thing too about my decision to quit Raid is I don't know that I have a lot to add to the game. I don't have a lot to add to your experience. There's so many great content creators that have done amazing jobs that I don't know that I can really compete with, and I can't add any more than what has already been said. If you're starting a brand new account, I think Hell Hades, Jay Giggs, Scratch, like all these guys, Ash, have free-to-play accounts that they've done that are startup accounts that walk you through all of the aspects of this game. So for me to come back and basically regurgitate things they've already said, it just feels redundant. And then it's tough because I'm fighting through so much frustration. I go back and watch some of my videos and I'm like, oh, I just seem so mad. All the time I'm mad. And it's like, that's not the way you want to be when you're playing a game. But anyway, so we got absolutely nothing there. We didn't even get a single epic. let's see what we got in the progressive chances here. Skull Crown would be amazing. And to be fair, all 3 of these champions came out after I left. So I'm gonna go with this guy because he looks vicious. I don't know what he does, but we're gonna give this a shot with 2 shards and see if we get lucky. I'd laugh if I pull like a legendary void after that whole banter about the drop rates. That'd be insane to get a legendary after probably my 10th void shard on the account maybe. But we got 2 rares. Again, nothing that's gonna help us out on the account, like even a cold heart. And this is what we all wait for here, is those sacreds coming through. We're gonna go for that Rotos again, why not? Another Geomancer. So we didn't get a chance to really talk about primal shards, but this whole idea of mythical champions left a really bad taste in my mouth for my main account. Like, it's already hard enough to try to keep up with all the legendaries in the game. Now you're going into mythical champions, which is, I think, about the same chance as getting void legendaries. So for a free-to-play account, it just feels completely unachievable, and that was very defeating as well. But I digress. We're gonna go ahead and pull this sacred shard and hope for the best. Watch me get my Rotos that I've never had. All right, we got an epic, and it is awesome. No, he's bad. Basilisk, he would take care of your lizard faction until you pulled somebody better. I think Jizzo's probably better than Basilisk. So that is it. That is what the account ended up with. We don't really have anything to write home about. So we're gonna shut this account down. We're gonna forget that it even exists, and we're gonna move on to King Arthur. If you do like my content, I will be covering King Arthur probably every other day or so. I'm actually really enjoying that game right now. And I plan on doing that for at least the next 90 days. But when the Godforge beta testing comes out, I plan on moving a lot of my attention over to Godforge because I think that game is going to be absolutely amazing, and I cannot wait. If you haven't liked and subscribed to the channel and you want to follow me over on King Arthur, I'd love to have you. And then later on Godforge as well. Please do so because it does mean the world to me. I'm working towards monetization, have not got there yet, but we're getting closer every day. So I appreciate you guys, and I look forward to seeing you next time.